If it weren't for the assembly line, consumer goods like cars, televisions, and computers might never have been available to anyone but the very wealthy. Let's take a look at how we learned to mass produce things faster and cheaper as we perfected the assembly line. It takes about 2,500 separate pieces of metal and plastic to build a typical car. Putting these pieces together by hand would take quite a while, but a modern factory can assemble a car in 60 seconds, producing 400 cars every 8 hours. The key to mass production is the assembly line, a system of machines, equipment, and workers organized to put together a product in a highly efficient way. In the early 1900s, Henry Ford's Ford Motor Company sold about 10 cars every day. It took more than 12 hours for a small team of mechanics to build the car from start to finish. As the popularity of the Model T grew, Ford could not meet the enormous demand for cars with their existing system. In 1901, Ransom E. Olds, designer of the Oldsmobile, developed the assembly line, a process of building cars in distinct steps in a precise order. But Henry Ford perfected the system by adding the conveyor belt. He built his first moving assembly line in Highland Park, Michigan in 1913. Ford workers stood side by side at a conveyor belt while each performed a specific task, such as attaching the steering wheel or installing the engine. Productivity more than tripled. Using the moving assembly line, it took only 93 minutes to produce a Model T. The reduced production time allowed Ford to lower the prices of his cars, dramatically increasing sales. Ford's assembly line was so effective that he sold more than 1 million cars in 1920. By 1940, he had become a billionaire. Updated versions of the assembly line can be found in factories around the world that make many kinds of products. This car manufacturing plant produces 380,000 cars every year. Many things have changed, but the same assembly techniques that Ford devised remain central to the functioning of this factory. Instead of a worker performing a specific job for long periods of time, now each worker performs several tasks. For example, one might build the entire mirror unit for a car. Workers also rotate among jobs frequently to avoid monotony. The key to the assembly line is avoiding waste. Car seats, for example, are assembled in a precise sequence. Every piece must arrive at the right time. Each seat is designated for a specific car that will be built in the next few days. There must be constant movement and flow, but it's also important not to move too fast to avoid mistakes. A car in this plant will pass through more than 200 workstations before being inspected and finally shipped out. As useful as the assembly line is to the auto industry, some of the most expensive cars, such as the Bentley, are still assembled by hand. For the rest of the industry, however, the assembly line has sped up the manufacturing process, enabling companies to build more in less time. The assembly line is the basis of mass production and a vital part of the modern industrial economy.